Well, with the world seemingly standing on its head right now, it's never been more important to stay calm and centered. And if there is anyone on the planet who can help us with that, it's the Dalai Lama. The spiritual leader of Tibet turns 85, and after traveling the world many times over, inspiring generations with the Buddhist message of compassion, kindness, and mindfulness, he remains as humble as ever. So as we close out Mental Health Month, our Dan Harris shares this unique conversation with His Holiness, the Dalai Lama.
High in the Himalayas in Dharamsala, India, where even here they're bracing for the virus, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who has spent much of his life traveling the planet, delivering spiritual teachings and meeting with world leaders, is now on lockdown just like the rest of us. I sat down virtually with His Holiness and started by asking how his life has changed during this pandemic. His answer? Simple.
No change.
He explains that he often takes a long meditation retreat every year for a few weeks or months. Now he's doing just that, albeit involuntarily.
And I always look television, at least 1 hour, 2 hours like that. Then most of the time, sometimes reading, mainly meditation. I think daily, my meditation, about 4 or 5 hours meditation. Very useful, very helpful.
And he says for those of us who want to explore meditation, start small.
At the beginning, few seconds, 20 seconds or 30. Then gradually 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you can sit for that pureness of mind. I think worthwhile to start meditation. Then mind, not now sensorial mind, the deeper mind. Then you see focusing some deeper meaning, the meaning of life.
For the Dalai Lama, meditation is helpful, but he says even for him, watching the news is painful.
Very sad. When I saw in television some starving people or poor people, sometimes I crying.
But he reminds us not to feel helpless.
Indeed, it's very sad. Without losing, the courage. Sadness should transform determination. More suffering, more determination. Should not feel helplessness. That's a failure.
He references the struggles he's faced in his own life. He was recognized as the 14th Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of the Tibetan people, at the age of 2. He was just a teenager when the Chinese military marched in. In 1959, he escaped into exile in neighboring India.
Like our own cause, we never sort of give up. We try. To acknowledge these things. One fail, again effort, fail, again effort. That's the proper way. You make one effort, fail, then completely lost your determination. That's wrong. Failure, again, try. So, regarding this illness, now number of doctors, nurses, even they willing to sacrifice their own life. I really appreciate, wonderful. So, without losing our self-confidence, make effort. That's important.
You have lived through so much pain yourself. You're a refugee as a consequence of Chinese military action. And now China is playing such a controversial role on the world stage. You are still able to generate positive feelings for the Chinese after all of this?
Yes, certainly. China, no democracy, politically quite tight control, so totalitarian regime. But this will change. I think China will change. You see, sort of friendly sort of feeling here. That gives me more inner peace.
Since the Dalai Lama mentioned that he's watching a lot of news these days, I ask about the performance of President Donald Trump, who he has criticized in the past for a lack of moral principle. You have met with every American president except this president, Donald Trump. I wonder if you could speak with President Trump now about America's role in the world in the midst of this virus. What would you say to him?
America, the leading nation of free world. So he's sort of thinking only America, a little bit too small. That's my feeling. Then a lot of American media, you see, sometimes a lot of problem, lot of criticisms. That's your business.
Given that so many of us are feeling so much fear these days, I ask His Holiness about the best way to reduce anxiety. He is unequivocal. Compassion.
Selfish, think just yourself, is narrow, foolish, short-sighted. As much as you love yourself, take your care, and the basis your own life depend. You should take care more them. So altruism is this ultimate source of happiness.
I've heard you describe this as wise selfishness. If we're feeling anxious or scared in our current circumstances, from what I hear, you're advising us to turn our attention outward to help other people, and that will in turn make us feel better.
Yes, yes. I myself, you see, as soon as I wake up, I always think altruism. That really brings inner peace, inner strength.
Also on this video call with us during the interview is an American neuroscientist named Richard Davidson. While the Dalai Lama is a religious leader, he has also become a major scientific figure. Many years ago, he challenged Richie Davidson, everybody calls him Richie, to use modern science to study the impact of meditation on the brain.
We've all been taught in graduate school, when I was going to graduate school, that we look at a person and we try to find out what's wrong with them. And what the Dalai Lama was asking me to do is look at a person and find out what's right about them.
One of the things Richie has learned is that the kind of compassion meditation that the Dalai Lama recommends has profound impacts on our happiness, our behavior, and our body.
Compassion practice is anti-inflammatory. It actually decreases molecules in the body that we know are important in producing inflammation.
Before ending our interview, I had one more question to ask His Holiness. Do you ever watch something fun? What do you do when you want to purely relax?
I look animal.
You look at animals.
Animal. Really, nature. Sometimes you see those animal, tigers or leopard, these sometimes a little bit uncomfortable, but deers and these very peaceful, very peaceful. So I found to look animal.
His Holiness watching animals on TV. It was a great interview. Thank you so much for bringing us that. And so he talks about some meditation tips. And among those, he says to start small and also consider starting out in the morning for meditation. Expand on that for us.
So I hate to be in a position of disagreeing at all with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, but I might tweak that advice just slightly. Definitely start small. One of my little slogans when it comes to meditation is 1 minute counts. And I like to say that if you do 1 minute, it really can help. And I say that because habit formation is really hard. And it's really useful to start small. So I totally agree with the Dalai Lama on that. In terms of the morning, I think the morning is great if you are a morning person. If you're not a morning person, I think you should do it when it works best for you. Really, the best type of meditation, as Richie Davidson is known to say, the best type of meditation is the meditation you actually do. So when I'm giving people advice about how to boot up a habit, I'm just thinking about how can you fit it into your life in a way that will make it an abiding habit.
Okay, so note to self, I may not be doing that morning routine.
Fine. That's the reason why you anchor a 7 o'clock show.
Exactly. So that neuroscientist, he also was talking about the benefits of on the brain of compassion meditation. Give us an idea of how one would do that.
Okay, just to say about Richie, I mean, he has been a pioneer in studying what impact meditation has on the brain, and he's studied all kinds of meditation. In fact, he likes to say that the word meditation is a little bit like the word sports. It can describe a whole range of activities. So in particular, he's been looking at compassion meditation, which the Dalai Lama talks about. And so and there are many kinds of compassion meditation, but the kind the Dalai Lama was talking about to us in our interview is called Tonglen. And it's actually quite simple, even though it has a name that may make it sound foreign. You sit comfortably in a comfortable position, close your eyes, or if you don't want to close your eyes, just gaze neutrally at a spot on the ground. And then you just breathe naturally, and you don't have to breathe in any special way. And as you feel your breath coming in, you breathe in the suffering of somebody. You pick somebody who may be suffering at this moment, and breathe in their suffering, and then breathe out your compassion, your wish that they be free from suffering. And you can move from person to person as you're doing this practice. Now, let me say, this may sound a little clunky, maybe even a little cheesy to some people, and it struck me that way when I first heard about these compassion practices. But there's an enormous amount of evidence that compassion is like a muscle that you can train, and that we're not stuck with our compassion settings like they're factory settings and are somehow unalterable. And that's a really radical notion, that compassion is a skill.
Always interesting and good to talk to you, Dan Harris. And you can hear much more of Dan's conversation with the Dalai Lama on the latest episode of his podcast, 10% Happier.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.